welcome to another episode of How About That? I'm your host and producer, Vinnie Langdon. And if you ever thought about moving or selling or just getting out of New York or getting out of wherever you're at right now, don't worry because this episode is all about Real Estate 101. I have a good friend here who is an expert. This is Dave Edwards, aka Treasure Valley Dave. I like that name. It rolls off the tongue, it's like cannoli or something like that,
The
it
Vinnie
just,
Langdon show just rolls off.
I know, and rolls off and it has nowhere else to go except for onto the ground. And
Oh,
hopefully someone will pick it up and eat it, but that's another story. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Treasure Valley Dave, who is a real estate agent, and you are based in what, near Boise, Idaho?
near Boise, Idaho. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for remembering.
Hey, no problem. So Dave, for those who do not know, give us a background on, how you got into real estate. I mean, you tried truck driving, that didn't work out. You
Yeah.
tried
Well,
working over at NASA, that didn't work out. And
yeah.
what happened?
I've done so many things, but I used to live in California for a long time there in Vacaville. You might remember.
Oh yeah.
Had a lot of great experiences there. And then I retired and came up here to the Boise area and just kind of, bummed around for a while, got bored, became a long haul trucker because I'd never done that before. Then I decided that putting chains on all winter long was just not going to be for me. So I said, well, let me do real estate. I've never done that before, so I could probably do it okay. And actually, I have been doing it, and it's turned out absolutely great. And it's been a huge blessing, not only for my family, but for all the families that I helped move up here to the Boise area.
So Dave, let's talk about first. Buying a home is a big investment.
Yeah.
And maybe some of those who are watching this aren't tech savvy, but they're at that point in their life where they're thinking, maybe it's time to move. What are some great resources for them to look into, maybe on the computer, magazines, and if they start researching?
One of the first places to go is to talk with one of your trusted real estate agent friends. And I know everyone says, well, I don't want to waste their time, but they have time for you, and they're such a great resource to put you in the right direction, and also to kind of have discussions with you to figure out what it is that you're really trying to get. One of the things I put together for my people is this great home buying process guide, and it goes through and asks you the questions to start getting the juices flowing up here to figure out exactly what it is you want to do. And then you start building around you the professionals that you're going to need, your real estate agent, a trusted lender. And if it's maybe you're going to be looking to move out of state, there's a lot of states where people seem to be escaping from, like California. There's a lot of people leaving there and coming up to Idaho or Texas and Arizona and places like that. And if you've never been to that other place that you're thinking of going to, finding somebody there to talk with. So let's say that you decided that you might want to move to Idaho. You give me a call, you start asking me all those million different little tiny questions. And because me and my family went through that whole relocation process, we've got a lot of those answers from experience, those little things that most people that have lived here all their life wouldn't understand, but we understand it for sure because we've been there.
Right. And there's a lot to consider when moving, especially, what chapter you are in your life. Sometimes you want to look up, criminal history. What are the crime rates in that town or that region? What are the school districts like if you have, children and you want them to go to a good school? What are there, so there's websites actually out there, right, Dave, where you could find a lot of this helpful information when considering where to
Absolutely.
move to.
And if you're one of those numbers kind of people, there's this great resource called city-data.com, and it goes throughout all the country, big cities, tiny little towns, and it gives you all the data, like, population, crime rates, what kind of jobs are there, and things like that. So that's an absolute great resource. One of the resources that we looked at when we were thinking of moving out here is this book by Joel Skousen called Strategic Relocation. And he had gone through and looked at all the states and all the big areas within the states and broke them out by things like, a great place to live if, it's one of those apocalypse things might happen. Where would you want to be that you're not going to get run over by all the fleeing masses from the big city. And the top two places were Utah and then Idaho. And so we checked out Idaho and we thought, well, you know what? This really is. So we had all the data that we got from citydata.com, all the YouTube videos that we looked at, and then that book, that strategic relocation, it just kind of cinched it up for us. It was, we already had our hearts in Idaho, but this kind of helped us make a valid reason for why our hearts were in the right place.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, there's so much to consider, family and friends and, job opportunities too. So that's all important information. Now, let's just say I'll use myself as an example. I'm going to go ahead and move, to a place like Idaho, and I might have, $100,000, $200,000 cash for that house. But not only am I going to need money, there's a lot of paperwork that goes into the whole process of real estate. And what else, what are the qualifications do I need? We often hear about you have to have a good credit score in order to buy a home. Is that the case, or how does it all work?
Definitely you want to have your financial picture is looking as best as possible. You don't have to have a screaming 800 credit score. You can get a 640 or 650. I mean, we're all human. We've all had those learning experiences that life has given us the opportunity to go through, and maybe we're getting better from that. So, if you don't have a 700, 800 credit score, it's not something that's going to keep you from getting a house. Probably one of the big things is having a job with steady income, which is important. But you don't necessarily need to be working to get your loan. If you have a letter from your future employer that says you're going to start within the next month after you close on your house, that's as good as if you're working today. So there's these little details that good lenders and good agents will be able to share with you. Another great thing is that there are, well, let's say you had that 100, 200,000 like you're talking about. Yeah, you could put it all down on a house, but do you really want to? Talk with your lender, your advisors. Maybe you want to keep some of that for moving expenses, to have some in your emergency fund. Maybe you've got an old car that could be going out one of these days. You just don't know. You only have to put down, depending on the circumstance, if you're a vet or if you're moving into like a rural area, there's programs you can get into that house with zero down. If you go with an FHA program, that's 3.5% down. So, it's $7,000 for a couple $100,000 house. And if you do have enough money, you could put down a 20% down payment. And that means that you don't have to have PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, which will save you a couple $100 a month. So it's like wherever you are in your financial journey, there's a way to get you into a house.
Gotcha. Very exciting. Something to look forward to for those who are out there going, I can't wait to move out, or, move to a different location or a new community or a whole new state. So that's pretty cool. Now, sometimes we'll be flipping through, those magazines, or, one of the great real estate websites online that has lists of housing. And we might see, oh, a foreclosed house, and the price of it is knocked down, tens and twenties and $50,000 off. And you were telling me off camera that Idaho, you don't really see many foreclosed homes, but generally speaking throughout the country, is buying a foreclosed home an okay thing to do?
It depends. I've talked with people that have watched way too many HGTV episodes, and they go out and they put a little bit of money down in this house, and it really becomes a money pit. It was more than they thought it was going to be, both in time commitment and money commitment, and it's just be really careful. And the nice thing is you can typically figure out how much it's going to cost and what kind of time. If you bring your professionals in, and your inspectors, your contractors that are really good at this kind of a thing. But you're absolutely right. Here in the Boise area, because our values are going up so quickly, around 1%, a little over 1% every month is what houses are going up. So let's say you bought a year ago or so, then something came up in your life, you have some financial trouble. Chances are you can just go ahead and sell your house normally, and maybe even put a little bit of money in your pocket. So yeah, not a whole lot of foreclosures out here.
Gotcha, gotcha. Very cool. Now, when we talk about real estate, and there's actually laws in the United States called disclosure laws. And often we hear, a realtor has to tell you if someone passed away in the home. That's one of the top ones. But let's go in a little bit further. There's also laws, by law, a real estate agent has to tell the buyer, hey, you got some plumbing issues. You got to, to replace the carpet. You got a hole in the roof. You got, some minor damage or, major electrical damage. And those are some of the laws that the real estate agents have to disclose, right?
Absolutely. And as a realtor is a designation, and we're part of a group that has higher ethical standards. So we will tell you, because we are realtors, any adverse material fact about that house, whether it's good for our client or not. If I'm with the seller, it's like if I kept my lip quiet, it would benefit them. But we have this code of ethics that we have to disclose any adverse material facts. When there's a transaction, the seller will be filling out a disclosure form. In California, I think it's twice as many pages as we have up here in Idaho, but it's basically the seller, affirming these are the condition of things, and if there's issues and problems, that's where he's going to spell it out. But maybe there's an issue that the seller doesn't know about. So once you put in your offer, you're going to have an inspection period, and you really want to hire a great home inspector to go out and look at everything from the crawl space up to the top of the roof and take pictures and make a great report that you can understand. And doing all that, that's very prudent, and that's going to give you a real good idea of the condition. It's not to say that there's something that nobody has seen, like maybe you're on a, you know, I don't know, a sinkhole, and one day you're going to come home and the house will be gone. But those are very prudent things, and you can mitigate a lot of problems that way.
Right, right. Fantastic. Good to know. Now, some people are probably watching this and they're going, man, I want to get out of my town as fast as I can, but they're unsure that their house is going to, have a fair cost. They might think, man, my house doesn't have a fence around it. My house doesn't have that beautiful, waterfall in the front when you pull up to the front of the house. And let's talk to us about some things and give us some tips on how we can improve the property, the value. Maybe we can redo the siding, the windows, and,
Yeah,
etc. Tell us about that. How can we,
absolutely.
get
Well,
that money for our buck?
there's two things. One is that we recently did some research for an episode of my YouTube program, and I was kind of surprised to find out that the one thing, if you were to do one thing to increase the curb appeal and thus the value of your house, is to paint your front door. So it's like when someone pulls up, they see the door, it looks nice and fresh. And if they're standing there behind the agent getting the key into the door, they're looking at a nice environment. It just sets the tone for the rest of the house. Um, but if you are going to be putting your house on the market, a great thing to do is to talk with a trusted, experienced real estate agent. Because you might be thinking, wow, if I put all this money into this, I'm going to get a great return because this is something I really like. Well, you might like it, but the most of the population may not like it. Maybe you want to put a pool in the backyard because you enjoy splashing around on warm days. Most of the people in your area would prefer not to do that because all they see is maintenance and money and stuff like that flowing out of their pocket. So talk with an agent before you spend a whole lot of money on anything, but you will get the biggest bang for your buck by freshening up your kitchen and your bathrooms. And that might be just as something as simple as a really deep thorough cleaning, maybe some paint, or if it's really needing some attention, maybe some fix up. But definitely talk with an agent first.
There you go. Now you have experience as being a real estate agent for a few years. And, right now people are in a time, a period where I know personally so many people have been affected with everything going on in the world where they lost their jobs. And maybe they're like, you know what? maybe I don't want to go back and, work in fast food or hotel management or the restaurant business. Maybe I could do something differently where I can be independent, I can be an individual. I know you talked to me about, your wife and your daughter helps you out alongside you. So maybe real estate could be an avenue for these people. And it's 2020. What are the qualifications and, how does one become a real estate agent?
Well, there's two answers. There's the answer that your state's going to ask you um, to figure out, to accept, to pass tests and classes. But the real thing you have to ask yourself is, do you have a heart for helping people? If you don't, you're going to struggle in real estate, even if you aced all your tests to get your license. But if you have that heart for helping people and the curiosity to find ways to make things work, you'll not only will you be successful, but you'll have fun doing it. And it's like great clients will seek you out and they'll value your help. And it's not like, a used car salesman. It's, running you down the lot and almost forcing you to buy. And no, in real estate, you're just helping somebody. And then the money's nice and you do get to set your own hours, but you do have to work. But if I need time off to go watch one of my daughter's plays, I can go do that. But there is a lot of work, and I I'm not sure about any place else other than here in Idaho. But to get started, and you're a small business person as a real estate agent, so this is your business. You might be working under a brokerage, but it's still yours. If you were to consider the business of being a real estate agent with maybe opening up another business, it's going to cost about $1,000 to get started in real estate with the licensing and the insurance, things like that. But the potential once you've spent that money is just if you couldn't make 100,000 a year, maybe you give yourself a year to figure things out. You're not quite doing it right. So yeah, if you have that heart and if you look at it as a business and think, I'm not just spending $1,000. Oh my gosh. It's like, I'm investing this in myself and the future for me and my family. And it's a great thing. I really like being a real estate agent. Maybe you can tell.
That's awesome. Now, I know I've had the experience of working with different realtors throughout the years doing real estate photography. And I think one of the joys about, that profession in itself is going to different homes and seeing different floor plans and different layouts. And you personally kind of get inspired and going, wow, that house, I'll never forget. I think we were looking at houses in like Reno, Nevada, and this is going back, almost 30 years ago.
Right.
And I remember for the first time walking into one of these houses in Reno, and it was, all those model homes and everything, and they had a home movie theater in their house, like downstairs. And, when you're 5 years old, you're thinking, wow, that's heaven right there. But, for you as a realtor, I'm sure you get the joy of having a similar experience where you go to different houses and going, that wallpaper doesn't work. But then you walk into the
Right.
next room and you go, that wallpaper definitely works, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you do get to, it's like maybe watching a reality TV shows. You get to look at other people's lives a little bit. And it's kind of fun too. If I'm taking buyers around, we'll go look at some really like well staged houses just to get some decorating ideas. And it's like, I never would have thought that combination would work, but it does. It's like, wow, it's so cool. Yeah, you're learning all the time doing this.
Very cool, very cool. So now we'll wrap up the show here in just a few minutes, but I want to talk to you about those who are sitting at home, they're tapping their feet and they're thinking, I don't know right now, everything going on in the world, the elections coming up. How's the market? Do you think, in your honest opinion as a realtor and as an expert, do you think people should wait on selling their home until after 2021, or just jump into it now and make the jump now before the market crashes, or what?
Right. Well, it's funny. I was just talking with my lender last night, and from the financial aspect of it, if if the incumbent wins this November, then financial markets are going to be fine because they know what to expect in the next 4 years because it'll be similar to what happened in the last 4 years. If we have a new president, it's going to be a whole new administration, and it's a big uncertainty. And the markets don't like uncertainty. You know, whether they're left or right, liberal or conservative, the one thing they really hate is uncertainty. So you might see some things in the market tightening up of like maybe an increase of credit scores to be able to get into a house, or maybe an increase in interest rates. But when it comes to you and your life, the most important thing is what's right for you, and then make that happen. Don't put somebody else, don't put CNN or Fox News in charge of what you're doing in your life. Just figure out what you need to do, get your experts around you to make sure you have a very informed decision, and then just move forward.
There you go. Good, good way to put that, definitely. Now, we talked earlier in the program, you mentioned some states earlier, people moving to Arizona, Texas, Idaho. And, you know, do you know what other states people are, wanting to move to? What's
Well,
popular right now?
I follow what people in California do a lot because, well, we live there, and a lot of people's jobs have gone to Texas, so they're following their jobs to Texas. And there's a lot of places in Texas that you can get real estate dirt cheap, and so that's very attractive. Some people like Arizona or even Nevada because it's still a very quick trip back to California to visit friends and family. Um, Idaho, on the other hand, is about 8 hour drive to Sacramento. So if you're from the Sacramento area, it's not a terrible distance to go back and see people. And people are not moving to Oregon and Washington all that much. In fact, people are moving out of there. But and if you're that rugged kind of person that really enjoys those bitter colds, Montana is really popular right now as well.
Yeah. And do you know, as far as like the cheapest areas to go to right now in the country that the houses are going for?
Hmm. Well, I do know Texas is very cheap. Maybe some of those states down south. We looked at Tennessee. We thought that Tennessee was going to be the place for us, but so we drove there. And I would recommend anybody do this: is go to where you're thinking of going to. And Tennessee was fine, but we just didn't feel it. So the houses were cheaper, the people were friendly. Maybe it was the humidity was like 110% every single day. So and up here in the Boise area, we have a very dry heat, kind of like it was back in Vacaville.
Right, right. Very cool. No, I mean, tonight we learned a lot of great tips about, real estate. If you had, hopefully we answered some of your questions. If you had these, questions you've been pondering about, making that big jump. And it's like a frog taking a leap. It's not just a little, a little baby gate you're moving and going through.
Right,
It's definitely a challenge, a lot to consider, not only on you, but your family as well, leaving family members behind or friends. And that can be always hard too, but that's a whole nother story. But I
right.
hope you guys enjoyed this episode of How About That. We got to talk with Treasure Valley Dave here in the Idaho region, all about real estate. And Dave, you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, you have an official website. If people have more questions or want to get more educated on the real estate industry, they can reach out to you, right?
Absolutely. I have a very easy website. It's treasurevalleydave.com. And from there, you can find my YouTube channel. I put together the whole series of these different helpful magazines that I got. They're all over the place. So we have all sorts of resources. You can go on my website and take a practice test to get your driver's license here. It's just it's very user friendly and very helpful. Oh, and you can look at the houses on there too. But go there and then you can contact me. Be glad to answer any questions. Um, I went through the big change and I know what all those butterflies in your stomach are about. So I can certainly relate.
Awesome. Well, how about that? Thanks so
How
much,
about
guys, for
that?
watching. And we'll see you guys on another episode. And don't forget, we have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/howaboutthatnyc. And you can go on there. You can rewatch this episode. If you have maybe your friends, they're trying to move, you want them to move with you, they can rewatch the episode there on the Facebook page. It's right up there on the front page, as well as past episodes and future episodes as well. Don't be a stranger. Send us a message. And if you want to be a guest on How About That for next season, let me know as well. We'll see you guys later. I'm Vinnie Langdon. This is Dave Edwards, and we'll see you guys next time.